Today, I'm going to show you how to cook the perfect tri-tip on a pellet grill. I mean, look at this guy. This turned out absolutely phenomenal. So I started this process about 5 hours ago. Today we're working with a Snake River Farms American Wagyu black grade tri-tip. Tri-tip's extremely popular on the West Coast, and I'll tell you what, it is a great tasting steak. So what we did is we got that out of the package, and right away we looked that there's a fat cap on the back and there's some silver skin on the front. What we're doing here is we're going to take our knife and we're going to take off all that silver skin. It's not a great chew. You want to get rid of it. Take your time and take it off. I'm also going to trim around the edges, and then I flip it over and we work on this fat cap. Now this fat cap is not going to render down enough to make it enjoyable, so your best bet is just take it off. Take your time, and what you do is you angle your blade up. You're going to take a little bit of meat with it, but not enough to worry about. At the end of the day, we want a great bite of steak to reward ourselves for all the hard work, so take your time and do it properly. Now that we're satisfied with the trim, let's look at why they call it tri-tip. As you can see, the grains of the meat shift as we move from left to right. We're going in one direction, and as we slowly move over to the right, the grains start to change. So we're going to cut this in half almost and slice it differently when we come down to the final prep. Don't forget where that line is roughly. It's way easier to see it when it's raw, but we'll find it when it's cooked as well. Then what we did is we worked on our marinade. Today's marinade is super simple. The first thing we're doing here is I'm breaking out my pepper cannon, and I'm using some of the Man Kitchen smoked pepper. Now this pepper is phenomenal, especially when it's fresh cracked. So what we're doing is we're going to use our pepper cannon here. I'm going to go to a coarser grind, and we're going to grind some fresh. For this particular recipe, we're using about 1 tablespoon of pepper. Next thing we're doing is we're using a half cup of soy sauce, a quarter cup of extra virgin olive oil, and then a quarter cup of red wine. Now this is a wine I drink every day. It's a good tasting wine. Don't cut corners on your wine here. And then finally, I'm taking 5 cloves of fresh garlic. We're putting that through our garlic press here. Fresh is the way to go for this. And then we're gonna give it a good stir. Finally, we put our meat in the bag and we dump that marinade on top and we throw it in the fridge. Now the big thing is here, as you can see, when we hold this up, we're not covering our meat all the way, so I kind of bunch down my meat and I put the bag over top of it, and then every hour, I just kind of rotate it around, make sure all sides were covered. We want all of the meat to taste good from this marinade, and I marinated this for about 3.5 hours. You can go as little as 2, you can go as far as 6. I wouldn't go beyond 6. But I would try and get closer to 3 or 4 if you could. Then what I did is I pulled it out of the fridge, and this has actually been sitting for about 1.5 hours on the countertop. We don't want this cold. We want this more of a room temperature. That'll help give us an even cook. The next thing I did is I came out and I fired up my Yoder. Today we're cooking at 350. I'll explain more of that in a second. And we're using Bear Mountain oak pellets. Now, the one thing we're going to do today, something you guys don't see me use very often, is today we're using our grill gates. We have the diffuser door in place. Why are we doing that? Why are we cooking at such a low temperature? So I don't want to have the outside all nice and cooked and have a raw inside, right? So what we're doing here is we're cooking at a lower temperature. Now remember, with your grill grates, the temperature rises. They absorb a lot of heat energy, and that's gonna put it in the meat pretty quickly. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this guy every 5-6 minutes. All right, I'm gonna drizzle some marinade on it. I'm gonna keep it nice and moist. We want a nice, moist, flavorful steak when we're done. We're gonna get a little bit of caramelization on the outside of that, but not a ton. If I want some more color there, then I'll remove my diffuser plate and pull it out. So let's get this guy on here. As you can see, the steak is a little dark from our soy sauce. You'll notice I didn't put any salt here. The soy sauce is what adds all our salt here. Now we've got a little bit of a marinade here that we're gonna use. And again, remember, we're gonna turn this about every 5 or 6 minutes, keep some even cooking. You heard, even at 350, I got a nice little sizzle there. So pay close attention and keep turning it until we get up to our temperature. So real quick, I just realized it's 2024. It's the first video I'm recording in 2024, so I wanted to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope you and your family have an amazing 2024. Last year, channel-wise, we had an amazing year. I'm really happy. I want to thank you all for your support. It grew by 79%. We just crossed 23,000 subscribers, so we're on our way to 100K. If you're looking for a little bit of motivation, at the beginning of last year, I did record a sit-down fireside chat video with just my thoughts. I was going to do it this year, but I decided against it, but the information still applies. Anyhow, let me show you what our first flip looks like after 6 minutes. As you can see, we've got some great lines on there. That was only after about 7 minutes. I talked for a little bit there, so it's closer to 7 minutes. That's why we've got to flip this around every 5 minutes. We don't want to get too cooked and build up a huge gray line on the outside. So flip this frequently, and I'll bring you back once we're done. So it's been about 23 minutes or so. This guy is done. As you can see here, we've got some good color all the way around. Obviously, it's still dark because of the soy sauce, but good little bit of a crush there. This is gonna be one flavorful steak. We just hit 132 to give you guys a reference point. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this cool for about 15 minutes and then we'll slice into it. I managed to time the sun perfectly once again. I don't know how I always end up in the shade, but anyhow, I want to share some quick notes here. So first things first, number one, I opted to turn every 3 minutes. After that first 6 minutes and then I went another 5 minutes on the other side, I could tell that 5 minutes was going to be too long. So I flipped every 3 minutes. The other thing is that after I was about 3 times 4 is 12 minutes in, I moved it to the back and then I moved it over to the side. The reason why I did that is that diffuser plate's right underneath and it's just pounding the steak. So I didn't want it to overcook on the outside and get that gray line. So what I did is I moved it back and then I moved to the side. And then what I did is I turned it on the one end. There is one end that's quite thick, and if you can stand it up there properly, you'll get some good charring kind of on a third side there. Then what I did is throughout that, every turn, I poured a little bit of that marinade on there. And what happens with those grill grates there, it hits the bottom, we get coming, the juices evaporating and putting some more flavor into that meat. And I'll tell you what, my house smells amazing. So I covered it up with foil. It's been 60 minutes since I last saw you. The last thing I got to share with you is the 25,000 subscriber giveaway. We just crossed 23,000, so it will be happening soon. All you got to do to enter, go to my website, rumcook.com, scroll down, sign up for the newsletter, or you can click the 25K giveaway and you'll see some of the partners that are involved there and sign up there. Just join my newsletter list. We've got lots of exciting things happening in 2024, and quarterly newsletter is going to be one of them. So let's have a look at how we did. Got little juices here. Might as well take advantage of that. Perfect. So again, on this guy, you got to look at your grain. All right. A lot of times it'll start to go like this. And like this one's kind of going on an angle. It's not as dramatic as it normally would, so you really got to pay attention. But if you kind of pull the meat apart, you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, that is definitely going that way, so we're going to go about here. Beautiful color in there. Look at the marbling you can see in there. There is a little bit of a gray band, but not very much. You got to keep flipping. Reverse sear is not the only way to cook a steak. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go like this. I'm going to cut this a little bit on a bias. The outside's going to be a little gray, and then we'll start to get into some pink. That side's quite gray, actually. That's our thin end. We'll try this other piece. That guy got a little gray there. Yeah, this end's way overdone. Let's try this guy. Wow, I'm surprised. The gray band got a little thick near the end here. So, perfect, right? This guy, after it bloomed out, it's not too bad, but it is definitely overcooked on this one edge. I'm trying to think of what edge that is. I think I laid it down. That might have been the edge that I laid down. I just laid it down too long on there. I was trying to get a bunch of crust on the outside. So you can see fairly thick gray line there. But look at the rest of it. We've got some gray line there. The grow grates might have been a little too hot to use, but look, I share my failures on this channel. Every cook you can learn something from. Let's see how it tastes though. I'll tell you what, temperature aside, the flavor is delicious. Let me tell you what. You can taste all that salt. I just remembered when I was making my marinade, I put a tablespoon of the W sauce in there. That, my friends, is a great tasting steak. It's not the perfect steak, I promised you in the beginning. We went a little bit over on a couple sides here, but I mean, look at inside. That's a good color. I like my steak 135. Lots of people like it closer to 125. Tri-tip especially gets real chewy if you cook it rare. So I like to push it up a little higher in general, but my steak preference is up that temperature, so for me it's fine. But you can see we've got some good color in there. We have a little bit of a larger gray line than I would like. If I was to do this again, I don't think I'd use the grow grates. I would use the standard grates and keep flipping it every 3 minutes, and I think you'd be fine. Sounds like I just have to do another video to show you. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up while you're down there. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you soon.